Okay, here we go. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of Menachem of the Hebrew month of Av, August 19th. Zorea Tzedakos Matzmiach Yeshuos. It's written, he sows tzedakah, God sows tzedakot, and causes deliverance to sprout forth. So, what does tzedakos mean, plural? So it could mean, the most literal way, it would mean there, he sows righteousness. God is full of righteousness, and he's giving the righteousness to cause good things to happen. But on another translation of tzedakos means charities. God sows charities and causes deliverance to sprout forth.
Tzedakah also has the meaning of righteousness.
That's why I said that already.
I'm sorry.
That's probably the way it was meant to be in the Proverbs, the way in the verse. But you could also translate it as charities. So the use of the idiom, remember, this is a communal fundraising letter. The use of the idiom sowing in relation to the commandment of charity. What does it mean, God sowing charity? Does God he gives charity? What does it mean he's sowing charity? And we see a similar term of that verb in the word tzedakah used. Ziru lechem tzedakah, sow for yourself tzedakah, and it goes on, reap according to the measure of kindness. So what's this sowing? So you get the question?
Yep.
Why is God sowing, planting charity? We'll have to understand this in light of the teaching, a famous Gemara in Bava Basra, that Rabbi Elazar, the Talmudic sage, would give a coin to a poor person, and then he would pray. He always looked to give charity before prayer. Famous thing. Why did he do that? He says that he based it on a verse. The verse says, "Ani b'tzedek echezeh fanecha." I, through tzedek, I'm not going to translate, I, with tzedek, I behold your face. What does it mean through tzedek we behold God, God's face, God's presence? So again, tzedek can mean righteousness. It could also mean charity. They're very interchangeable in a way. Righteousness, justice, and charity are very similar. You give charity because it's the just thing to do. But our main point here is that he learned out very practically. Sorry, 1 second. He learned through, that was a station check. He learned very practically, give charity to then pray, because prayer, what's prayer about? Prayer is what he's saying the verse is referring to when it says, through you behold God's face. Prayer is beholding God's face. What does it mean that prayer is beholding God's face? Is that prayer is a dialogue, really. It's not just a monologue, we're speaking to God, it's a dialogue. Ultimately, you're opening yourself up to some sort of inspiration, right? If you're a prophet, then it's like literally, revelation. But even us, we're trying to open ourselves up to some sort of, intuition, some inspiration. And how do you get that? By prayer. Prayer is a mixture of contemplation before, during, and after about God, and having kavana, having intention, according to everybody's level, right? Meaning God is every day, when the minyan goes to chakras, God responds, but not everybody gets it the same. Not everybody can interpret what they're feeling, or they're opened up to the inspiration. And this inspiration, we know, is really a kindness. We never can earn God's presence. It's really otherworldly to even get a little iota of it. It's always the kindness of God from one world to the next that goes to those that have reverence for God. Meaning the infinite light of God radiates a quantitatively great and qualitatively intense manifestation in the higher worlds above. And in the higher worlds, their angels, they expire in ecstasy in His light. And you should know
What
that a
word
lot
did you use? What word did you use? They expire?
they expire in ecstasy. It says the angels, like they sing Halukkah and they get batal, they get nullified in the great light, whatever that
They die.
means.
They die. It means they die. Expire in
Whatever
English
that
means
means,
die.
right, something like that. It's not exactly our type of die, but it's something. The point is saying is something that's not the point here. The point here is that there's a whole orchestra and choir of millions and endless angels, spiritual beings that are comprehending God's presence in the higher worlds throughout the day. And Kabbalah talks a lot about that and try to give some metaphor and symbolism. But I found this interesting, that the prayer book, that the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, the men of the Great Assembly, this is, I think, towards this is the beginning of the Second Temple era. That was the men of the Great Assembly. Mordechai and Daniel, I think, were part of that. Some famous figures. The last one in Pirkei Avot was Rabbi Shimon HaTzadik was the last one, I think. Anyways, the point I'm making here is that they made a prayer book that's uniform prayer for everybody. Right? We all say, give or take, the same prayers. Right? Agreed?
Sure. Sure.
Yet, embedded in these prayers is parallels to the supernal realms. We actually talk about the angels and the blessings of Shema. But even the Hallels we do, and the Baruch Shamar, these are all like do-it-yourself kit prayer, which is really metaphorical of what's going on in the cosmos during prayer, or in the morning, afternoon, evening, of all the angels singing Hallelujah. Now, the prayer book is like, we just read the prayer book. We don't really get all that experience because in this world, everything is, hidden. Everything's hidden. This is the hallmark of this world. Everything is hidden, so we feel autonomous, so we can do free choice, right? But the reality is that everything you do, every prayer, there's things going on in the heavens, and there's hidden the reality, and the hidden realities. Yet you're praying. When you pray with kavana in meditation, you get a little bit of God's kindness to open up a window to you, to illuminate. Sorry, sound check. A little bit of God's kindness. So the little bit of inspiration that you get enlightened during prayer is God's kindness. Another term for this is why if God's illumination to us, inspiration, is called mayim, water, because water is about flowing from high to low. Water flows. That's the idea of kindness. So we're trying to. We started the eighth epistle of Igeres HaKodesh, and again, it's always a communal fundraising letter. And the Alter Rebbe is trying to explain what's going on when you give charity. So he brings some sources. And he brings a source that when you give, that Rabbi Elazar would give a coin to a poor person, then pray, because that's how you merit the divine illumination during prayer. which is a kindness. And we'll say that, ultimately it makes, we'll get to it more explicit, but it makes sense that when you do a kindness of charity, that allows God, or that allows or makes it, tills the ground for God to do the kindness of illuminating you up during prayer. Thus ends today.